Thank you for being with us for our CARW Sponsor Spotlight. This is where we highlight the companies and the individuals who are supporting our organization and who are supporting our industry. And today we're joined by Eric Romano, Workplace Studio Director for EUA. Eric, welcome. And could you just start out and tell us a little bit about yourself and a little bit about EUA?
Sure. Thanks for having me. It's great. Really happy to sponsor CARW and be involved over the last, I guess, since I got to EUA in 2014. Actually, I think you were one of the first people I met in the industry, so I really welcome the relationship and love being part of CARW. So, as you mentioned, I'm the Workplace Studio Director. EUA is architecture firm with 3 offices. We have an office here in Milwaukee, which is our largest office. We also have an office in Madison and Denver. Denver we added 3 or so years ago, and it's been a great success to kind of build in that market. So those are our geographic studios, but we also, we're very market focused. We have expertise in my studio, workplace, healthcare, living environments, and education. And through those studios, we really focus on that market expertise and making sure that people, even up and coming staff, have an opportunity to change studios and learn a lot about each market before they really choose to focus on something for their career.
So you're talking not just about ground up buildings and design, you're really talking about advising and consulting clients on their physical work environment. Can you talk a little bit about that, and even touching on culture, which I know is a big topic of the day?
Yeah, so specific to our studio, even all those markets, have different types of environments. We focus on the workplace environment. So your typical Fortune 500 companies, we also do industrial is a big part of it. But culture, most people think of architecture and square footage and getting your work done as really, numbers and just the objective side of things. But the subjective side of things, the soft-sided, the culture side of it, is a really big part of the way we think of architecture and the way we think of design, and also engagement with our client. That, certain design strategies work for certain types of cultures and certain ones don't. I mean, you'd have a very different culture and design philosophy for a law firm, for a call center, versus a startup where you might be really having that more of an innovative culture, collaborative cultures. Those are just all different than some of the other. And we find that in all of our submarkets where we're dealing with insurance companies, or I mentioned law firms, or, companies that design widgets. They all have to be, we have to be very careful to make sure that we're learning enough about a company to design a space that works for their business objectives, but also helps to celebrate their culture. Because firms can be successful in spaces that are not designed very well, but if the company's culture isn't strong, usually that's a recipe for them not being successful.
So when you talk about culture, I mean, you mentioned Fortune 500 companies, but culture as it relates to even small companies. Can you talk about that a little bit more, and how you work hand in glove with the clients to really help them meet their business needs and objectives?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of our work when it comes to smaller companies comes from the community that CARW services, the brokerage community in Milwaukee. And we work really closely to help those brokers sell, like the companies that they're representing, their next space, their next step. Because a lot of these small companies start off small, like a typical startup. And a lot of times this is their first office, their first, headquarters can be small. Sometimes they take large steps. And it's really important that people don't feel like it's just a place where you do your work. I mean, so much of, that work-life balance is so important to a company's culture, and making sure that the staff member feels like they're part of something bigger than I'm just here to do my job. That can work. but you usually find that if someone feels like they're part of something bigger and it's celebrated either through branding or the way the space is designed, and that the work that individual staff members is shared collaboratively, those small steps I like to say it's like 1 + 1 = 3. You just get a happy, engaged individual will usually, knock it out of the park, as opposed to just feeling like they're just here to do their job. They're here, they understand they're here to do something more.
No, I love that. Talking about that productivity and those synergies that can be created. So what makes EUA unique?
So what I have found, I spent a lot of time in my career at a large national firm, and their home run swing was working with end users. And what I've learned since I've been up here is work and relationships, and where we get projects from comes from a whole host of other possibilities: the brokerage community, developers, contractor relationships, some of our partner relationships. And what I've learned is that each one of those project sources, has a little different goal at the end of it. Brokers are, working to get a lease deal done. Developers have a very different financial goal than an end user does. And understanding how all of those projects get finished and what the process is really tricky. And since I've been here, it's been a great learning experience. And now I feel like I understand it, to understand that where the project comes from and what the goals of that, I guess you'd say project sponsor are going to be very different. And you have to understand that. And I think EUA does. In each of their markets has their own different nuances of where the projects come from. Our education market deals with referenda. We don't deal with that at all. But we do deal with developers that, can change the way they think about their project, like week to week. And we deal with end users that sometimes have, shareholders or, a board to convince. So each one of those delivery processes is very different. And EUA is great at understanding that and flexing their approach to make sure that we're servicing the client in the best way possible and helping them to make their project a success. Because each one of those, like I said, how they define success is very different.
Well, and that's a segue into the next question, is about delivering value. And you touched on it in a couple different ways, but can you really kind of boil it down for us about that value delivery and how you define that?
Yeah, I think the most important thing we do for our clients, regardless if our client is working for a developer or an end user, or we're in a design build relationship and it's the general contractor, I like to say that what we do is hard, or it's perceived as hard from our client, and our job is to make it easy and not stressful for them, because that's what we do every day. And I think that each client, how we deliver value, each client is different. They may want to involve just the C-suite, or they may want to involve a deeper portion of their staff to have input into the design, or their future building. And what we deliver is flexibility. We have a really strong templated approach that allows us to flex as needed, depending on how our client wants to move forward with the project. That accommodates different scales, it accommodates different speeds, and it accommodates different levels of engagement. Even just doing work, I know our Madison office, different municipalities have different levels of approval process. That changes things. And what I have found, if I compare this to my previous life, EUA's ability to work in all those markets and deliver a consistent high level project and really deliver it for our clients. We're very client focused. We listen and make sure that nothing is for our benefit. We really try to focus on the business drivers and the vision that our client has, and our job is to help them realize that vision.
No, that's tremendous. So we're coming off of 2020, a year that some of us want to forget. But I think I would argue that the smart people want to really dig in and remember it for all the lessons that were learned. Can you talk a little bit about some of the challenges of 2020 for you and your clients, and then maybe what you learned from those?
Yeah, I can talk, I'll touch on first a little of it personally. The hardest thing for me in a studio director role is staying engaged with all the staff. We do virtual meetings during the summer. We did some socially distanced things outside, but our clients are going through the same those same challenges, and we've been very open and very, again, being flexible to how our clients want to manage the engagement, because there were some projects that we were in the middle of design, and we couldn't stop. So we had to basically go from one week to the next, that all of our meetings were virtual. And I think the biggest challenge for a lot of our clients was, could their technology support it? And what I will say is that more times than not, even if there was a hiccup for a week or two, from all the clients I've talked to, the heavy majority of them figured it out. And I think that was something that is really, I think it's something we're celebrating. And it's actually, if I looked back, I wouldn't have expected that there were very few people that had to make significant changes or policy or investments to catch up. And we were one of them too. The idea that, I can't give enough credit to our IT group here at EUA for being able to not skip a beat and go from working from home as being, a novelty that occasionally happened and we had to support, to being that basically 100% of our staff, and anywhere now flexing 80 to 100% of our staff is working from home, and having the infrastructure backbone to support that. And our clients had to do the same thing. And so when you asked about what did I learn, I learned, like, holy cow, we can really do this. And I would have never thought that it would have worked out as well. And again, I've heard very few narratives that this has been, obviously, in our market and workplace, it's different than the retail market. That has been hit hard. But in the workplace market, most companies that we've talked to have figured out a way. They don't want to do this forever, but they've figured out a way that they see they have a path to get to the other side, and they're comfortable with it.
Yeah, and fascinating too, all the different sectors, they've all kind of had their own challenges, but the way that they've approached them and, look at coming out of the other side, stronger, better, leaner, and more productive, I think is really important. And companies like yours and people like you who make that possible. So as we look at 2021, and I would even argue 2022, what do you see as some of the greatest opportunities here for EUA?
So we're working to align ourselves as, how can we help? That we know every client that we have, that we work with consistently, that we're their trusted advisor. We want to help them figure out their new real estate equation. And we're working to really make sure that it's not just a numbers game. I've seen a lot of information out there where it's all about numbers, and there's a softer side to it, that this will be, I think we're going to see a growing number of opportunities for everyone in our industry, brokers, developers, architects, engineers, to really engage with their clients about what their future workplace might be. And it's going to be both, like I've said, both subjective and objective. You really have to help solve that equation. And the opportunity is to be there to help our clients, and help our clients in a unique way that works for them. I keep pointing that out, that, one size will not fit all. And there'll be some companies that want things to be, and they may have the culture to support the things can be exactly like they were in 2019 before all of this. But there are some companies that will take a different approach and realize that this experiment probably not the best way to describe it, but this situation we've been in has proven a lot that they would have never thought possible. Let's embrace that and see how can we make the company, what do we learn from that that'll help us make the company stronger and help us achieve our business goals faster.
Oh, that's great. So final question here. As we turn away, what is the one thing that we should all remember about EUA?
Very good question. The thing that I think is really unique, and everyone should, unique in that we all love what we do here at EUA. It's definitely part of the culture. And I think that shows through when we're working with our partners in the industry or our clients, that having a company that you clearly see that culture and relationships internal to the firm shows outwardly. And I think really it is a differentiator for us, that we are never about ego, never about doing what we want to do. It's always about what our client wants to do. And we have a very collaborative environment that it just can't help but show through. And I think that really helps us in the market to work with lots of different types of clients and really connecting with them on that level, because it's important. It can't just feel like that we're just going through the motions. You know, when we're working with a client on a building, small TI, ground up, whatever, we work at all different scales, which is another thing that I've learned is possible, because where I was before, it wasn't. It was big or nothing else. The variety of scale and client types that we have to work with, and the way that culture shines through is really something special for me. And I think that most of our clients really appreciate the fact that we are who we are. We're not putting on a face for them.
Great. Eric Romano, Workplace Studio Director for EUA. Thanks for your time today. Thanks for your support of our organization, of our industry, of our members, and of our community. Thank you.
You're welcome. Happy, love it, love every day.